Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the post-show personal development program. Today, Today, we're going to evaluate, understand, and mend your relationship with food. So I know that this is a huge, huge deal for competitors, and this was actually a big reason why I started this program at the beginning of my intention setting for this program. I knew that healing relationships with food was going to be a huge, huge deal. And this is something that a lot of you have already brought up to me or continuously bring up to me. And I really hope you benefit from this. And I'm always, always, always going to be here to answer your questions and dive even further, especially on the live Q&As. There's so much to cover within this topic, and I tried to get as much of it into this as I can, but it's really important to remember that a lot of this also is very personal. Your relationship with food, it has a lot to do with your relationship with yourself. So sometimes it's really helpful to have a personal coach take you through this. So if this is something you want to hop on a private call with me about, absolutely just shoot me a message and we'll work something out for it. Okay? So we're going to dive in. There's a lot to get through, so get your notebooks out, get ready, and if you want to pause it while you watch it to actually implement the questions asked, please do. Keep in mind, there's a lot of questions I pose because I like to lead you to your own answers rather than just saying, like, here's the deal. It's so much more powerful to lead people to their own answers. So as a coach, it's my responsibility to do that. However, I want you to know a lot of the questions I ask you aren't necessarily meant for journaling. There's some where, journal on them, and there's some where you can just answer it in your head pretty quickly or whatever your gut instinct or gut reaction is. So let's dive in to the first portion of this training. So first and foremost, this is the biggest thing. So if there's anything I want you to take away from this, this is it. Although there's so much I want you to take from it, and one of them is at the very end, and that's about feeling guilty. But we're just going to talk about prep versus off season. A lot of people will tell you that this is their lifestyle. There's no difference between what they do on prep and what they do in the off season. A lot of the pros that I've interviewed for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast say this. However, there's also a lot of people, a majority of people, who do not live this way. This doesn't make them wrong or right or any less of a competitor. And there's plenty of pros who don't even do this. Our current number one Miss Bikini Olympia, she's very on point, but she also enjoys herself. So it's really important to keep those things in mind. When you're going into your prep or when you're going into your off season, you set powerful intentions. You have very specific goals. When you're in your off season, things can become a little bit more, I guess you could say, lax, because you have goals in other areas of your life as well outside of just being your best on stage. So when those things start to come into play, maybe you're not as focused on weighing every piece of your food, or maybe you want to celebrate that birthday, or you want to go out for a meal, or you want to enjoy a home-cooked meal and not think twice about it. You don't want to feel guilty for those things. So just recognize that there's a huge difference for most people. So if you feel like you have to always be on point, just remember, like, that's because you're seeing a lot of highlight reels online and a lot of stories about like the good things that people want to share. But a lot of those people slip up. A lot of them don't show them having the extra cookie or whatever. They don't show that. It's not wrong that they do or don't, but it's just the truth. And this is a lifestyle, absolutely. You can't be successful in competing if you don't make this a lifestyle. So don't take this the wrong way where I'm like, you can't just take your off season and eat like crap all day and never go to the gym. Like, no, you won't make any progress and you'll probably work backwards against yourself, actually. But this is also life. So while you're enjoying your pre-prepped meals or you're learning to eat more intuitively but still making healthy and whole choices, you're still able to enjoy your life. You're not constantly thinking about food or obsessing over what you're putting in your body and how it's going to make your body fat go up a little bit more. Like, honestly, in the off season, you're going to gain a little bit of body fat regardless. That's just the name of the game because you've been in a deficit for so long with prep. So your prep self has different needs and requirements than the off season self does. So you need to be very aware of what those needs are. And you have to come to terms with them and accept that the choices you make in both of those seasons are going to impact the way that you feel and the way that you live your life and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. If you cannot accept and acknowledge those changes that come with the choices you make, you will absolutely never be able to feel good about your decisions. Why? Because you will take the action, you will regret it, you will question it, you will doubt it. There's no acceptance, then there's no way you can actually just live, right? Because you're constantly wondering what if or why this. So acceptance is key. Acknowledge what you're doing and how it's impacting your results. And we're going to talk about judgment and the reason why we end up, maybe binging or overeating or wanting to purge through overexercising, things like that. That's going to tie back into this. So first of all, this is a good place to ask yourself, what is food freedom? There's going to be a lot of internal reflection and insights within this portion of the training, actually this whole entire thing. So it's really important for you. A lot of what I'm teaching here are the principles that I have taught to people all over the world in my Food Freedom Academy. And the principles are the same. The only difference is I'm going to be working a lot more about competitions and prep and off-season into this, because what we do is very different than what most of the population does. And keep in mind, like, to that point, you're most likely following that's the same people similar to you. So when you're online and you're following all these people and they're like the ideal version of you, let's say, or they are representations of what you want to become, you're forgetting that there's like millions of other accounts and people who are not living that lifestyle. They're not going to the gym every day. They're not wearing booty bands all the time. They're not wrapping their stomachs and putting lotion on it and hoping to burn more fat. Like, they're not on the stair mill rocking out to music. Like, these are the people you're following or watching. And so it's really easy to have this become your view of the world, but it's important to reflect and remember that it's not the only way and it's not the only thing, which means it's not the only standard. And we're going to get into that more, but it's important for you to first define what is food freedom. So I'm hoping you have either paused it and done that, or you're just kind of thinking about it still. But the way I see it, and you might have a different view of it, and this is okay. And I want you to remember that when I'm talking about these things, this is very different than prep. I will tell you right now, like, I'll be the first to tell you, on prep, I don't even take a lick of anything off the spoon. It has nothing to do with discipline and willpower, although those things are very powerful. But the discipline and willpower, I should say, is fueled by self-love, is fueled by desire, is fueled by goals. Right? So taking a lick off a spoon in prep is not at all conducive to my goals, but licking the spoon or the bowl in my off season is like nice. It's a nice mental break. It allows me to experience that, something that I actually really enjoy. So keep those things in mind. So how I see it, basically, when you can be in touch with yourself intuitively, and I know there's a lot of words on this screen, by the way, and I'm sorry about that. It seems like a lot of notes, but I feel like it's better for me to provide this to you than to just say it and you have to like try to go back and remember. I'd rather you be able to download the PDF of the slides and be like, oh my gosh, that's right. Or hang this up if something stands out to you, or highlight it, So anyway, I believe it's about being in touch with yourself so you can eat intuitively, knowing exactly what your body needs. There's going to be a lot of realigning with your first nature instincts in order to actually make that possible. However, intuitive eating is possible. And especially if you've done preps or you've done a prep or you've been dieting and in any shape or form, whether that's macro counting or that's meal planning, you're going to have a good idea of what your body responds to. I'd hope so, especially because of how focused it is in prep. So eating intuitively should be a lot easier for someone like you who has an awareness of what they put in their body versus someone who doesn't. It's also about being able to eat very, very healthy and clean and nutritiously and giving your body what it needs to feel nourished without necessarily craving a ton of unhealthy foods, because they're still available. You can still enjoy them. And you can do so without any emotional attachment or binging or fears, etc. And then I think it's about enjoying celebrations and gatherings without feeling anxiety when you walk in, or feeling fear when you see the plate of desserts, or getting confused about what to actually have to eat or how much you should take, but just being able to be there and enjoy it, like really be present with it. Because one, it's not all about the food, and two, if the food is there, you can eat it. Okay. So I also think it's enjoying treats here and there, without feeling guilty about it. A lot of times, and we're going to talk about guilt, like I said, a lot of times the reasons we feel bad or guilty or any emotion when we're eating is literally, I'm not even kidding you, it's literally because of something internal that's going on that we need to shift. There are also so many people in the world who have never counted a macro, who have never weighed out their food, who have never had a meal plan or followed one, but still eat nutritiously and give their bodies what they need. Interesting. Again, what are you looking at every day? What's your expectation or worldview? So, again, I think food freedom comes down to having no restriction, all choice. All choices based on being mindful and self-loving. So of course, I want you to go even deeper than this after you listen to this workshop, call, whatever you want to call it. The important thing is that you remember that this is not a free-for-all. This isn't like, okay, now I can treat my body like crap. This is like, how can I give my body more of what it needs without feeling guilt or embarrassment or judgment over that? You don't have to feel guilty for having a chocolate chip, just like you don't have to feel proud for having a piece of chicken. I think the goal here is really to eliminate any of these associations with food and relate it back to how you're moving and feeling and taking care of your body. Why aren't we basing our pride off of how we take care of our body versus the actual thing we're putting in it? You're not a bad person for having chocolate, but you're also not you're not a good person for having chicken. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that making sense? I hope so. Let me know when you watch this workshop if that makes sense to you, that point. So what does it mean to have a healthy relationship with food? Literally defined for healthy relationship with food, like meaning you don't have eating disorders, and you can actually have no boundaries, right? There's literally no rules or restrictions. You have this higher awareness and consciousness within each of your decisions that you make regarding your food, but not in a way that it becomes obsessive and controls your everyday life. On prep, a lot of us do not have a healthy relationship with food. And I'll be the first to tell, I'm not going to say I'm the first to tell you, I will tell you right now, if you look at the fitness industry, most of these women, most of these men have eating disorders in some way, shape, or form. And unfortunately, they don't see the problem with it, but it is there, and it's definitely there. And you might be listening to this disagreeing with me or whatever. But again, reminder, this is not a hall pass to go and eat whatever you want, but this is a reminder that the thoughts and the beliefs you have around the food that you're eating are psychological, meaning you could have a disorder related to the food you're eating. Not the food you're eating being the problem, but the mindset behind it. So having a healthy relationship with food means that you're really enjoying and feeling fulfilled, with peace and comfort in the decisions you're making without guilt. You're making these choices. This is something that I believe it is, making choices deeply rooted in self-love. So you're naturally taking care of your body with proper fuel. You're not just eating something because it's there and you're eating it mindlessly, right? That's not healthy. A healthy relationship with food would be someone who goes in and thinks, you know what, I haven't had very many veggies today. I should really get some of those. And I know that that will give my body nourishment and energy that it needs. So you wouldn't have any crazy fads or beliefs. So you wouldn't be like, I can never eat carbs again. Unless, of course, this is medical. But for the most part, you wouldn't be dieting like crazy. So this specific course and this workshop or whatever is not about how to eat. It's about how to understand why and what you're eating. Because the ratios and the nutrients and all of that matters so much more, but that's something that you have to become aware of, you and your doctor, you and your coach, you and your own research, you and your own education. but I'm not teaching that in this workshop, as you guys know. This is just really showing you a healthy relationship with food versus a poor one. So within having a healthy relationship with food, you're not forcing yourself to eat anything or not eat anything. You're just listening, honoring, and loving your body and soul. Again, emphasis on this is off-season time, not prep time. You might be very different on prep, although I do know people who prep intuitively. Very interesting to me. But anyways, see those questions at the bottom? You may want to dive into those. I would actually love it if you did, and post them in the group after you journal on them. And if you don't journal on these, I at least want you to define food freedom, see what your current relationship with food looks like. A lot of you have already done this. And then you should have done it. And then look at, when you think about food and eating, how do you feel? What makes you feel that way? What would having a relationship with food look like for you? I want you to really go into this, because as we go into the next parts of this training, we're going to unveil a lot of applicable things you can be doing. So here we go. Fitness and intuition. How can you eat intuitively and stay fit and get fit and achieve your goals without being like crazy psycho like you were on prep? Again, there's a time and a place for everything. It's okay. But you have to, again, accept what is. So remember that your body's built to sustain you. We've been over this. I think it was week 2 with body image. Your body wants to function at an optimal level, which means it's always working to keep you functioning at an optimal level. Regardless of what you put in your body's going to do its absolute best to keep you alive. It'll combat anything that could hinder it from functioning to serve you, and it won't guide you to make a bad decision. Maybe psychologically you'll be guided to, but at the very root of it, your body's not going to be like, hey, go jump off that building. Hey, go eat a bunch of crappy food and never work out again. Like, that's not optimal for your body. There's other things going on. Your body doesn't, it doesn't want you to function at a low level. But there's obviously a connection to the mind as well. Your body's like a well-oiled machine, if you don't care for it, it can only take so much care of you. It's like if you were to drive your car and never change the tires or never put oil in or whatever, like eventually you wouldn't be able to drive that car. And last but certainly not least, it houses your freaking soul. So hello, take care of this sucker. So it's really important to allow your body to experiment and experience. So experiment with different healthy foods. Maybe you're really rejecting the idea of following a meal plan right now. So go to the store and see what stands out to you, but is still within like nutrient densities or is still nutrient dense and is still nourishing for your body. Maybe you try different whole, real, raw, natural foods, or maybe you try different forms of protein that you haven't tried before. You don't have to jump off the deep end and start being like, I'm going to eat intuitively and that's it. Maybe it comes down to every 5 days. Like for 5 days, you're following a plan. And then for 2 days, you're just listening to your body and giving yourself what you want, what you need, what it's telling you, and listening. My throat gets so dry. I need to speak more from my diaphragm or something. But anyways, maybe it's about making a new recipe for fun rather than your usual, like let's say it's steak and rice and veggies. Maybe instead you try something new, you look up a different recipe, look up different sauces, seasonings, etc. You also don't have to get rid of everything that doesn't seem to optimize your body or you're nourishing yourself. This is something I see all the time. It's kind of like when people are like, throw away the scale. Why would you throw away the scale? The scale's not the problem. Your weight still exists. It's your perception of the weight. Same thing. Food still exists. It's your perception of the food. If you can't have a food in your house because you will binge and purge and go nuts on it, that's the problem. It's not the food. The food isn't jumping in your mouth. The food isn't running away from you. All right? So if you are restricting yourself from certain foods, it's not the food's fault. It's something internal that you need to address. And we're going to learn more about that. So just because you're going to take the food out of your house, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to walk by the grocery store aisle with it and not want to dive right in, or go to a party and not feel like overwhelmed by it. Again, eliminating conceptions about these foods is really important. So it means you can have moderation in a fulfilling way because it's all your body really wants. And if you don't like something, fine, but still make an effort to try more things. Try a different plan. Try a different way of eating. Try to acknowledge what fears you have about certain foods and start incorporating, seeing how you can actually incorporate them into your plans. Right? Maybe you're really afraid of eating peas or peppers because these are two veggie sources that have a higher amount of carbs, and you feel like that'll just mess you up completely. But then you try it 1 week and you realize, whoa, I had way better pumps in the gym. I actually put on more muscle. I feel good. I had better digestion. See, you could be missing out on some really awesome things because of the fears you have or the beliefs you have. A lot of people go, Celeste, why the heck do I have all these cravings though? Especially after a show. I want to eat everything in sight. I just can't stop eating. I see it and I eat it. I see it and I eat it. I personally had this problem after my show in September 2018. I also had it after my show after my show in November 2015. That was more of I didn't want to eat anything at all. I had no appetite because I was eating the same thing for years. And then I did a prep where I only ate those same things and literally had no room. So it was really weird how the body responds. But there's a reason for the response our body gives us. And as someone who studies this, learns about this, goes to school for this, like all these things, it's very, very clear to me that when we become aware of it, we are able to address it. So when you learn about why we might have cravings, that allows you to then recognize when it comes up. Kind of like when we recognize how we might sabotage ourselves, we could then create responses to this possible ways of sabotage. So cravings sometimes come up because our body actually needs something inside of it. You've all heard that when you want chocolate, you really need magnesium. Or if you want fried foods, maybe you just want fats. So cravings are these signals from your body about things that you might need. Maybe you have a nutrition deficiency. Maybe you have too much. Maybe you're not craving anything because you have a surplus of something. I remember I was super low on estrogen. I got my blood work done. And at that time, I was constantly eating tofu and edamame. And my sister was like, oh my gosh, you must really need some estrogen. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even correlate those things. And usually that's something that I do is I can pick up on that, but I didn't. It was just happening naturally. I didn't have to justify it. It was just happening. I was like, I'm going to eat more tofu and edamame. And then I started being given like estrogen therapy because I want to keep competing. I love it so much. It's my passion. So I was like, I have to make a decision. Anyways, getting estrogen therapy, and literally the sight of tofu, the sight of edamame was making me gag. And again, I'm really grateful to have such a deep connection with my body because I do the inner work. I do the body love exercises. I connect to myself every day. I pay attention when I'm eating. I put the phone down. I don't watch the TV. I listen to my body. So I'm glad I have that relationship with my body, and it does take work like any relationship, but you can snap into it. It's innately within you. Think about what drives your cravings. Could it be that there's emotion? Could it be that you just made a decision in your life that was huge and you feel like you're losing control and now you want to control food? Could it be a memory? Like maybe you remember your mom would always make hot chocolate during Christmas season. So now you want that every night in November and December, and you're like, why the heck do I keep craving hot chocolate? And it maybe brings you back to a time of warmth and peace that you don't currently have in your life. Or maybe, your body is actually just letting you know you need something. If that's the case, maybe you just try a healthier version of it. So you could look up online healthy cinnamon rolls, healthy bread, crunchy, healthy snacks, things like this. Maybe you replace regular flours and sugars with things like coconut flour, almond flour, oatmeal ground into a powder, applesauce, stevia, monk fruit, things like that. And here's the next thing, guys. Cravings aren't good or bad. They just are. There's so many people who want to who want to tell you like everything you're doing and thinking and saying blah blah. It all needs to be fixed. It doesn't have to be fixed. You could just recognize that it's human, and then respond to it. So just remember, not good or bad. They just exist. And the more you engage and tune in, the more likely you're going to experience the right nudges to take the proper action for your body. Like I said, I know my body so well now. Even with all the meal planning, even with all the preps, I've done over 6 shows. Well, I've done 6 shows. It'll be soon, I'll be having done more. But, it's like the more you engage and tune in, even when you're prepping, even when you're following plans, the better you're going to learn your body. And the more that's going to benefit you in the long term, like especially when you're done competing. So like anything, we have to listen to the signals our body gives us. Disconnect from things that are distracting you so you can do that. And then if you really want something, have it. Don't deprive it. Don't deprive yourself of it, because when you do that, you're going to want 10 of them later. So if you walk by that bag of Oreos and you're thinking every day for 3 days, I really want one, and you don't have one, and then one day you're like, oh, it's Saturday, I can have whatever I want today, and you have 20 Oreos. Imagine if you had just had one on Monday when you wanted it. Would have been a very different end result. So a lot of it does come down to our beliefs around food, our current behaviors with food, and the way we live our life and have lived our life with food. So why do you get cravings? Maybe you need more water, combat hunger. Like these are more basic things. Maybe your hormone levels are off, like I was telling you about the tofu and edamame. Maybe you're not getting enough nutrients, too much sugar. If you eat some sugar, you're going to want more sugar. You ever notice how after a workout, you eat like your post-workout meal, and maybe off prep, you have something like more sugary cereals, get that simple sugar straight to the muscles, glycogen restore. And then you're like, I want more sugar. It's literally, it's an actual response in the brain that's occurring. When you eat sugar, you want more sugar. Keep that in mind. Stored emotions, fear of missing out or losing it. So maybe you keep thinking, literally, tell me if this is something you go through, because I absolutely know I have gone through this and I'm so aware of it now. And I want you to know that when you become aware of it, you can put a stop to it. I noticed one of my triggers is constantly thinking about being on prep again. Makes me want to eat more things that are not on prep plan. Like, it's just a trigger. So when you can acknowledge your triggers, and we're going to talk about that soon, so stick with me, that's going to happen. Your body actually needs more fat, especially coming off of a prep. You're probably craving a lot of things. And this is a big reason why a lot of women will get so excited about like the sweets table more so than men will. Because their body actually is telling them, like, you need to be able to reproduce. You need to be able to bear a child. You need to put on more fat. You need protection. And it sees the opportunity after a show because it finally got a taste. And so now it wants more. It's like, oh, we're good now. We're doing this. Okay, let's do as much as we can before she does this craziness again. Another reason why your body's super sensitive in this time and wants to store everything. Dealing with cravings. How can you deal with them? Relieve stress, work through your emotions, especially if it's emotionally driven. If you're bored, do something else with your time. Why are you bored, or why are you experiencing this craving? Maybe you're turning to that hot chocolate for the warmth and coziness because you feel lonely. So you're going to go and fill your time with friendship. Or you're going to go to, you're going to watch a movie that makes you feel good. Drink some water, enjoy healthy, fun snacks, pre-prepare your meals, or things that could be made into meals. Like, you're going to have protein, have some pre-made proteins, have some sugar-free or natural options around, balance out your eating, that way you don't have spikes within your body. So it's not like you're just one day like, oh, I'm not feeling hungry at all today, so I'm not going to eat, and I'm trying to be more intuitive. It's like, no, like, eat a little and see what happens. Recognize that you're not crazy, remember this is normal, and then review like the previous trainings we've done and those questions, because they're going to reveal to you, maybe this is about body image, maybe this is about beliefs, maybe this is about social media. Maybe it's about self-loathing, the intentions you set that you're not meeting. So let's talk about goals and this whole intuition thing. A lot of people think like, oh, well, in order for me to lose weight or get lean again, I need to go on this diet. I'm just going to start dieting again. I'm going to go back to my prep diet. Oh, but if I don't force myself to train super hard after a cupcake, I'll ruin my progress. And I can't have a cupcake unless I run a mile for it. What if my intuition's wrong? I still can't connect to my intuition. So I'm just going to do this 30-day detox. Or, oh, I haven't seen in like after my show, I've just been trying, like I became a little too lax. So now I just have to do this. Or I'm doing all the right things, but my body isn't responding. What do I do? I'm just going to go back to this diet. Stop, breathe, listen, and love. These are the steps you're going to take when those kinds of things come up. So first of all, slow down. Your mind's running wild and you're moving to a place in your head where instead you should really be functioning from your heart and your soul. So head space, ego, etc. tells us we're wrong, we're not doing things right. Heart and soul says you're good, you got this, we know what you need, and you trust that. Breathe, relax. You don't need to stress. You have your whole life for this whole healthy living thing. So take it in, enjoy the process. Continuously putting yourself on diets and whatnot is not actually contributing to your goals. I'm going to be very vulnerable for you right now. I actually had sent an email to my coach. I'm not training with him in the off season, but he's so supportive. And I had told him, I said, I can't believe my body's not responding. And I'm taking such good, clear action. I'm lifting every day. I'm eating clean. I have a few things here and there. I feel mentally better than ever. Like I'm super stable. I have a good body image. I feel fine about how I look, but the numbers are pissing me off. And then I was like boiling over it a little bit. And then I realized like, wait, am I really enjoying this process right now? Like, does me picking myself apart make me enjoy this process? Why did I get into this sport? To enjoy it. I enjoy it. I love it. This is crazy. This is absolute crazy talk. So remember like why you got into this, what this whole healthy living thing is, because you still got years and years and years and years ahead of you to do this. Months and months and months, weeks and weeks and weeks, your whole life, every single day. How do you want that to look? Going back to what living with freedom and going back to living with a healthy relationship with yourself, your body, your goals. Listening. Remember, your body knows, right? Honor the power that your body has and actually allow it to function and guide you to make the right decisions. Maybe it's recognizing when you get bloated. Maybe it's recognizing when you eat something and you're like so hungry after. Maybe it's recognizing when you eat something and it just kind of sits in your stomach and doesn't feel very good. Start taking notes. Write it down or take mental note. Love, love on yourself. Again, self-love needs more self-love. Be present in your body. Be present in the moment. I was affirming to myself, after shows, I like to do this. It always helps me. One breath, one rep, one meal at a time. One breath, one rep, one meal at a time. And trust that. Trust that your body knows what it needs and take that action. Root that decision in love rather than just making a healthy decision in loathe because you think it's healthy and right. Know what your body needs. So again, connect to your body. Your body has this equilibrium it wants to maintain, but that equilibrium will change when you mistreat it. Okay. So actually I was reading this very interesting article this morning. It was funny. My dad hands it to me and goes, this might be helpful in one of your courses or in your content. And it literally just came to me as I'm saying this. And I love that. I love that literally like I can set a powerful intention or someone can set an intention for me and it can flow through me. So I'm going to share it with you right now. This guy, he goes to his doctor. He says, doctor, like, this is very summarized. I need a medication. I need pills. My heart is failing. This is happening, blah, blah, blah. And the doctor's like, what? You don't need that. And the guy's like, yes, I do. Like, I didn't feel any of these things. And you're telling me my heart is failing. You're telling me I have all these health issues. So he didn't even know he had these things. Then his body got scanned and now he's demanding prescription drugs. The doctor's like, I'm not giving you drugs. You know what you need? You need a new baseline, right? because this man, his body had become so used to negative treatment and maltreatment that it literally started functioning at that level. Your body will find a way to take care of you even when it feels like crap. And you won't know it because your body loves you so much, it's going to take care of you regardless. And if you have really strong connection with your body, you might feel that more deeply. I mean, you'll be able to give your body more of what it needs, but why not just be proactive before feeling the pain or before having someone tell you? Just start making proactive decisions. Remember that your metabolism needs balance and progression in a smart and specific way. A lot of preps can damage this or can put this at risk. A lot of girls talk about this as a problem because it's like a yo-yo dieting situation. So keep those things in mind when you are making these transitions and these decisions. Don't beat yourself up if after a prep you completely rebounded and now you feel like crap, like your metabolism's in the toilet. Like, no need to beat yourself up. Self-love needs more self-love. What can you do now? Be tactical. Maybe you try like budgeting. What I mean by budgeting is it's like, that in the morning you've already had your carbs, and by the afternoon you have your carbs, your proteins, and then in the late night you realize you still need more proteins and fats. So since you have room for proteins and fats, maybe you decide to have a protein bar instead of almonds and egg whites or something like that. So you can kind of budget those things in. Or you're going to have like a big burger later, so you don't have as many carbs and fats earlier in the day. You see what I'm saying? So you can budget that way too if you don't feel like tracking or you don't feel like weighing everything out. And then when you take the time to adjust, your body will too. So actually, this is a great reminder for me as well. Even if it's not going like how you want, you have to be okay with it. So what does this mean? It means like if you expected to start getting super lean or start putting on way more muscle and those results are not happening, just be okay with it because your body's adjusting. Okay. And you can meal plan, you can meal prep, all of that, but you still got to give yourself the freedom to make a conscious decision. Meal prep, macro counting, all of this can be really simple band-aids over really big problems. So if the wound is deeper than surface level, which most of food relationships are, then you have to go deeper. You have to, and you have to create the space to heal that. So notice your triggers. What leads you to overeating, binging, purging? I list these 3 things because these are the most common, especially with bikini competitors after show. So maybe it's seeing yummy food you haven't had in a while, or others are eating it and offering you some, or you just keep justifying having more of it. You're, like I said earlier, constantly thinking about your next prep, your next diet, working it off. So thinking of lack, not having it, remembering what it was like to not have it. And that makes you want to have it now. Feeling like you'll be fine, like saying, oh, I feel so good about myself and my decision to eat this food that I really want. And then you eat it and then you're like, I shouldn't have done that. That was horrible. Now I'm going to go run all this, food off. And then maybe it's accepting it and then rejecting yourself for it. Again, that kind of goes back to what I just said. So it's important to understand what leads you to doing those things. And just to clarify, when I say purging, like a lot of people don't realize like eating disorders include like a purge can be doing anything to get rid of your decision, your action you just took. So aside from vomiting, which is what a lot of people think of first, it can be something like doing extra cardio, not eating as much later or the next day, literally because you have guilt around the decision, not because you're like full or you're hungry, but because you just are guilty and you feel guilty and you're mad at yourself and you're punishing yourself. It can be, never allowing yourself to have something that's full fat because you already had so much fat yesterday, so you'll never have for the rest of the week. You're going to follow a prep plan, like your peak week plan or something like that. So just being very clear. Notice your fears. So why do we feel guilty? One, there's an identity disconnect. The only reason we feel guilty is because there's literally a disconnect between who we believe we are and the person we are acting as. So if you believe you're a person on prep, and you are a person on prep, and you keep eating crappy foods that's not on your plan, of course you're going to feel guilty. But that doesn't make sense. If you believe you're a person on prep, but you're really in your off season and then you eat some extra food, you should not feel guilty. But that's where the problem is, that you are acting like someone who is on prep. You're believing you're someone on prep, but you're acting as the person you are. Does that make sense? Like there's some form of identity disconnect. So that means that you might think that you can never eat what you want, but then you do, so you feel guilty. It's kind of like someone identifies themselves as, let's say someone doesn't identify themselves as a thief and then they steal something, they're going to feel guilty. So if you don't identify yourself as someone who has extra food and then you have extra food, you're going to feel guilty. This goes to expectations as well. Maybe you set expectations high based on the things that the people you're following, the people you're watching, stories you've heard, your childhood, the things people have told you, your own expectations, your beliefs, what you believe you have to do to be successful, accepted, part of a community, desired. And that goes down to then fear of judgment, failure, rejection. Maybe you have a fear of fat. Like you might literally fear fat. It's okay if you do. Like it makes sense. You're a bikini competitor. We want to get lean and conditioned, but you might fear fat gain, and that's not okay. And it can make you feel guilty. So you have to then evaluate your relationship with fat. You have to evaluate where you're judging yourself. You have to evaluate where you feel like a failure, where you're rejecting yourself. So as you see this and listen to this workshop, it's about going deeper than this, right? Like, because if I was talking to you directly, I could be like, oh, so-and-so, it really sounds like you're struggling because you want to be part of this fit crew that everyone's getting sponsored by, but you don't think you can be a part of it because you had an extra cinnamon roll yesterday. So what do you need to believe about your decision to have a cinnamon roll? And what do you need to believe about these people in this group in order for you to feel like, one, it's possible for you to get there, and two, you deserve it? Does that make sense? Noticing your patterns. So if you're always following a meal plan, or you're always doing extra cardio, or you're always punishing yourself, or you tend to follow a plan and then fall off of a plan and then follow a plan and then fall off a plan, or you count your macros and then you always justify more or less, and a lot of those more or less is driven by the things we just talked about, wanting to purge it or wanting to overeat, driven by emotion or fears or identity, and then doing things because you think you should. Again, going back to your understandings or belief about the industry, the sport, people in it, people around you, yourself, past experiences, when you've been a failure, when you've been a success. So the last piece of this is about making adjustments and building a plan, knowing what you know. So this is more that's good to journal on. First of all, what do you need to do in order to make this better for you? What do you need to do in order to make this better for you? Like, what kind of plan would truly feel good right now at this point in your life? While also still benefiting you, your goals, your lifestyle, the plans that you have, the things you want to experience. And even more importantly than any of that, any planning, any action taking, because I was thinking about this earlier on my walk, or actually it was on a run. I did an inspired run. Inspired runs are way better than required runs, kind of like intuitive eating, right? So anyways, what reminders do you need to have constantly from yourself that allow you to accept the results of your choices? Action is one thing, but intentional action is another thing. So if your beliefs are rooted in negativity or things that are not conducive to your goals, or you shifting into this off-season mentality, then you're going to have a hard time with the actions, because then you're going to feel guilty because there's that identity problem. And you know what? It's really important to remember that mental breaks will help you in your prep. Diet breaks will help you in your prep. Being crazy and not eating like you love yourself and moving like you love yourself, that's not going to help you in any area of your life. So what reminders do you need to have constantly from yourself that actually allow you to accept the results of your choices? The result of going into an off season. What happens when you go in an off season? What do you need to be prepared to see? What are you already experiencing in your off season that you haven't yet accepted, but is a result of the choices you've made? What choices do you want to make, but usually end up hating yourself over? Like maybe one of your goals was to advance in your career, and that involves going to a gala and eating this delicious, yummy meal that's like healthy, but it's definitely covered in butter, and you're not someone who normally eats that, therefore you won't have it. And then you start judging yourself because the people at the table won't accept you, or you won't get that promotion. Or maybe you eat it and then you think that they are judging you or whatever, versus just having the food and not having any connection to it. So remember that your choices have a impact on you. And the way you feel about your choices have a greater impact on you. So the best thing that we can do, I really believe this, is to root every decision in self-love. So revisiting last week, the rewriting of your beliefs and thoughts, doing that self-love routine that you make, becoming aware of when you're challenged in your self-love and doing something about it, like unfollowing people who make you feel shitty. In this case, maybe unfollowing people who promote an unhealthy relationship with food. Maybe it's just muting someone on Instagram who's currently in the depths of their prep, or someone who has just come out of a show and seems to make you feel like you're not doing very well, or you need to be doing more, or you need to look a certain way. Cutting those things out while you're working through your own stuff, your own mind, is going to allow you to live life on your terms versus someone else's. Because we're all on our own journey and our own path. So what do you need to do in order to make it better for you? What kind of plan would truly feel good? How can you enjoy it and benefit from it? And what reminders do you need to have to constantly remind yourself that and allow yourself to accept the results of your choices? Okay? So what I want you to do, take notes on all of this, answer the questions that were prompted as journal prompts, as well as these ones here, and any other ones prompted that you feel they'll need to dive into further. Share your main takeaways in the group, at least 3 to 5 of them, whether it's from the journaling, whether it's from the workshop itself, whether it's from an anecdote I shared, whether it's from a breakthrough that just came to you, like you have no idea where it came from, but it came like as you were watching this. Share it. I want to see at least 3 to 5 main takeaways from this workshop specifically, and then stay tuned because we are going to be doing a lot of fun things. It's important that you're taking action steps and staying accountable to that, posting the pictures in the group when you take the action step, or showing proof of it. Like last week, you should have shown a before and after photo of your following feed. And then your after of the following feed now being smaller. So these are things that you got to take action on. You're responsible for your results. If you can't take responsibility for your results, you're going to notice it's very difficult to take responsibility for other things in your life. So give yourself permission to do that, and hold yourself to it. Put it in your calendar, and then honor your calendar when it pops up, because you deserve this change. Go back to your week 1 intentions. Go back to sabotaging. And what are your solutions to the sabotages? Because you need to be successful. This is important to you, and it's important to me that you get the results. So stay on top of it. I want to see your takeaways. I want to see your action steps. And I want to most importantly see your celebrations. If I don't see your celebrations, I'm going to be sad. Because how will I know that you're truly happy with your results? You got to celebrate everything. And I know I'm kind of branching off a little bit, but when you celebrate your goals, your results to your goals, you are creating this signal, this vibrational frequency that says, I want more success. I want more of this, because you have this positive correlation or this positive anchor to success and results. It's kind of like if you were to flick yourself every time you did something, bad, or thought something bad about yourself, let's say, you would soon realize you do not want to think bad about yourself because it results in a flick, like Pavlov's dog, right? So similarly, reward center works the same way. If you can celebrate your wins more, you're going to have a more positive association to chasing the wins, having the wins, achieving them. Maybe you're celebrating the breakthrough you had. Maybe you're celebrating a cry session you had that totally felt so good and powerful, even though it was really painful in the moment. So be thinking of those things as you're celebrating, as you're taking your action steps, and as you're making changes throughout this program. I am super excited to hear all your guys' takeaways, and I know this is a really big one. So if you have any questions, post them in the group, and I'm here for you. And I can't wait to chat with you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're watching this workshop. Just make it awesome.